I never thought my own daughter, the child I raised with every ounce of my love, would shut me out of her life. But when Isabelle banned me from seeing my grandchildren, Sophie, Ethan, and Mia, the little lights that kept my heart beating, I felt a pain I couldn't describe. Willow Grove, the family home I'd given her, a place woven with 3 generations of memories, had become the last thread tying us together. Was I wrong to sell it? Maybe. But after everything that happened, I couldn't let things go on as they were. Let me take you back to where it all began. I'm Loretta Bennett, 62 years old, a retired investigative journalist living in a modest cottage in the rolling hills of Virginia. My life was once filled with deadlines, late-night interviews, and the thrill of chasing a story. My husband, William, and I built our careers from nothing, starting in a cramped apartment with a typewriter and a dream. We poured everything into our work, but our greatest pride was always Isabelle, our only child. She had a spark, bright, creative, with a smile that could warm the coldest room. When Isabelle graduated from art school, her paintings already turning heads in local galleries, William and I wanted to give her a foundation to chase her dreams, so we handed her the deed to Willow Grove, our family's treasure. It wasn't just a house. It was a colonial-style beauty, nestled among rose gardens and a quiet lake, its white columns standing proud against the Virginia sky. The place had seen my grandmother's laughter, my mother's tears, and every milestone of our families. History, birthdays, Christmases, quiet evenings by the fireplace. "Mom, this is too much," Isabelle had whispered, her eyes brimming with tears when we gave her the keys. "It's yours," I'd said, squeezing her hand. "This house needs someone who'll love it as much as we do. You'll fill it with your own memories someday." For a while it seemed like she would. Isabelle moved in, her paint brushes and canvases breathing new life into the old walls. She'd call me over for coffee, showing off her latest sketches, or asking for stories about the house's past. Then she met Gabriel at an art exhibition in Richmond. He was 38, polished, with a smile that seemed practiced, and a wardrobe that screamed money. I still remember the first time he came to Willow Grove for dinner, pulling up in a sleek convertible that looked like it belonged in a showroom. He complimented my cooking but barely touched his plate, praised the house's architecture while suggesting modern upgrades in a way that felt dismissive. "Isabelle says you're a journalist," he'd said, leaning back in his chair. "Must be fascinating chasing scandals." His tone carried a hint of condescension, as if my life's work was a quaint hobby. Gabriel was a financial advisor, or so he claimed, specializing in high net worth clients. Over dinner, he dominated the conversation with stories of deals he'd closed, investors he'd wined and dined, private jets he'd chartered. Each word felt calculated to impress, to establish himself as the center of the room. What struck me most, though, was how Isabelle seemed to fade in his presence. Her usual vibrancy dimmed, her laughter quieter, her eyes darting to him for approval. When Gabriel stepped outside to take a call, his second of the evening, William and I exchanged a glance. My husband, always the optimist, spoke carefully. "He's ambitious," he said. "That's not a bad thing." Isabelle's response was quick, defensive. "He's brilliant, Dad. You should see how he handles clients. Everyone respects him." I nodded, choosing my words. "Respect matters, sweetheart, but so does kindness. Does he make you happy?" For a moment something flickered in her eyes. Doubt, maybe, or a question she wasn't ready to face. "Of course he does," she said, but her voice wavered. Their engagement came fast, followed by a wedding that felt more like Gabriel's production than Isabelle's dream. He invited dozens of clients and colleagues, filling Willow Grove with strangers whose laughter echoed hollowly. Gabriel's mother, Vivian, swept through the house with appraising eyes, her diamond earrings glinting as she remarked, "Charming place, but it could use a modern touch." I bit my tongue, but the implication stung. Our family's legacy was quaint to her, a stepping stone for her son's ambitions. After the wedding, things changed. Isabelle's calls grew rare. Sunday dinners became monthly, then stopped altogether. When Sophie was born, I was over the moon, dreaming of reading her stories and teaching her to love the rose gardens. But my visits were tightly controlled, limited to brief moments under Vivian's watchful gaze. When the twins, Ethan and Mia, arrived, I wasn't even called until they were a day old. My time with them was always supervised, always cut short. "We want to keep things low-key," Gabriel would say, his smile never reaching his eyes. The breaking point came on Sophie's 6th birthday. I'd spent days planning a small party, her favorite chocolate cake, a hand-painted picture book, balloons in the garden. I waited, heart full of hope, only to get a text from Isabelle an hour before. "Can't make it. Gabriel booked a family photo shoot. Maybe next week." No apology, no explanation. When I called, desperate for answers, Gabriel answered her phone. "Vivian's putting together a portfolio for her charity gala," he said, his tone clipped. "It's important for our network, you understand." I didn't, not anymore. When I pushed back, saying they were taking advantage of my love while shutting me out, his response was ice cold. "Maybe it's time we rethink your place in the kids' lives. Your expectations are becoming a problem." That night, I cried until my chest ached. Willow Grove, the home I'd given with so much love, had become a weapon in Gabriel's hands. I knew then that something had to change. That night after Sophie's birthday, I sat in my cottage, the weight of Gabriel's words pressing against my chest. "Your expectations are becoming a problem." It wasn't just the cancellation or the coldness in his voice. It was the realization that my daughter, my Isabelle, was slipping further away, and with her, my grandchildren. Willow Grove, the home I'd given her with so much hope, felt like a chain binding us to this pain. I couldn't let it continue. I had to act, even if it meant breaking my own heart. The next morning, I called Cecilia Vaughn, our family lawyer for over 20 years. Cecilia was sharp, with a calm voice that could cut through any storm. I poured out everything: Isabelle's distance, Gabriel's control, the birthday that never happened. "I need to know about Willow Grove," I said. "Something's not right." Cecilia didn't hesitate. "Give me a few days, Loretta. I'll run a title search and check the financials." What she found shook me to my core. Cecilia called me to her office, her usually steady voice tight with urgency. "You need to see this in person," she said. When I arrived, she spread a stack of documents across her desk, each one a dagger. Gabriel had taken out 2 massive loans against Willow Grove, both in Isabelle's name, with the funds funneled into accounts only he controlled. The loans were months overdue, the interest piling up like a gathering storm. But the worst was yet to come. A 3rd loan, taken out just 6 months ago, bore a signature that was supposed to be Isabelle's, but it wasn't hers. The loops and flourishes didn't match the way she signed her name, the way I'd seen on her childhood drawings and art school diplomas. "Isabelle doesn't know about this, does she?" I asked, my hands trembling as I traced the forged signature. Cecilia's eyes were grave. "It's possible she signed the first 2 under pressure, but this one, I'd bet my license she never saw it." I felt sick. Gabriel wasn't just controlling Isabelle's life. He was gambling with our family's legacy, putting her and the children at risk without her knowledge. Cecilia didn't stop there. She'd done some digging into Gabriel's business, and what she uncovered was worse than I'd feared. His financial advisory firm was a house of cards, a front for shady deals that had drawn the attention of federal investigators. There were whispers of fraud, clients claiming he'd misled them, and a trail of dissolved partnerships. I remembered a dinner years ago when Gabriel had pitched me on a can't-miss investment opportunity. William and I had declined, sensing something off. Now I realized he'd been testing us, seeing if we'd be another mark in his schemes. "We can pay off the overdue loans," Cecilia said, her pen tapping the desk, a habit when she was deep in thought. "That would give you leverage over the property, maybe even the right to decide who stays there." It was a drastic step, one that could tear open the rift with Isabelle even wider. But I was done being pushed out of my grandchildren's lives, done watching Gabriel twist our family's home into his personal piggy bank. "Do it," I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. "Find out what we owe and make it happen." Over the next few weeks, I tried to reach Isabelle. I called, texted, even drove by Willow Grove, hoping to catch a glimpse of Sophie playing in the yard or the twins' strollers by the lake. Every attempt was blocked. Gabriel answered her phone, his tone dripping with false politeness. "Isabelle's busy with the kids," he'd say, or "We're keeping things private right now." Once he sent a text from her number. "Please respect our boundaries, Mom." It didn't sound like her. I knew he was pulling the strings. Desperate, I asked Cecilia to arrange a meeting at a quiet library in town, a place Gabriel wouldn't suspect. Isabelle showed up looking exhausted, her once bright eyes shadowed with worry. She clutched a coffee cup like a lifeline, her fingers trembling. "Make this quick," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "Gabriel doesn't know I'm here." He slid the documents across the table, my heart pounding. "Isabelle, Gabriel's been taking loans against Willow Grove. Millions of dollars in your name. And this..." I pointed to the forged signature. "You didn't sign this, did you?" Her face froze, the color draining from her cheeks. "No," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "He said the first loan was for the roof, the second for Sophie's preschool fund. But this, I've never seen this." For a moment I saw the old Isabelle, the one who'd painted murals in her bedroom and dreamed of changing the world with her art. She leaned forward, scanning the papers, her breath hitching. "He told me you were trying to control me," she said, her voice breaking. "That you didn't trust me as a mother, that you thought I was failing the kids." My throat tightened. "Sweetheart, nothing could be further from the truth. All I want is to be part of your life, to know Sophie, Ethan, and Mia." Her phone buzzed once, then again. Gabriel's name flashed on the screen. Isabelle's hands shook as she silenced it, but the fear in her eyes was unmistakable. "I have to go," she said, standing abruptly. "He'll know something's wrong if I'm gone too long." I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Please, Mom," she said, her voice cracking. "Don't sell the house yet. I need time to think." As she hurried out, I felt a mix of hope and dread. Isabelle had seen the truth, or at least a glimpse of it, but Gabriel's grip on her was tighter than I'd realized. I drove home, the documents heavy in my bag, and made a decision that felt like betraying my own heart. If Willow Grove was the tool Gabriel used to keep us apart, maybe it was time to take that tool away. I called Cecilia the next morning. "Put the house on the market," I said, my voice breaking, "as soon as you can." The days after that library meeting felt like walking on a tightrope. Isabelle had seen the truth about Gabriel's lies, but her fear of him was a wall I couldn't break through. I clung to the hope that she'd reach out, that the spark of doubt in her eyes would grow into courage. Willow Grove went on the market, and within hours offers poured in, each one a reminder of what I was giving up. Then, one chilly evening, my phone rang, Isabelle's name lighting up the screen. Her voice was a whisper, barely audible over the sound of running water. "Mom, I need you. Things are falling apart. She told me everything in hushed, frantic bursts. Gabriel's firm was crumbling. Investors were circling with lawsuits, and he was unraveling, drinking heavily, checking her phone obsessively through a tracking app, even locking her out of their bank accounts. He says it's my fault, she said, her voice trembling, that I'm not supportive enough. I don't know what to do. My heart raced. Where are you right now? I asked. In the upstairs bathroom, she said. The kids are asleep. Gabriel's downstairs. He took my car keys. I gripped the phone, my journalist instincts kicking in. Stay there, sweetheart. Lock the door. I'm coming. I called Cecilia and we sped to Willow Grove, the 20-minute drive feeling like an eternity. My mind raced with images of Sophie, Ethan, and Mia, their innocent faces caught in this storm. When we pulled into the driveway, the house was lit up like a stage, every window glowing. Cecilia dialed the police, her voice steady as she reported a potential domestic threat. We crept to the side entrance, a glass door overlooking the rose garden. Through it I saw Gabriel pacing in the kitchen, a glass of whiskey in one hand, shouting into his phone. His face was flushed, his gestures wild. Cecilia tried the door, locked. Without a word, she wrapped her scarf around her hand and smashed a pane of glass, the sound swallowed by Gabriel's own yelling. She reached in, unlocked the door, and we slipped inside. Gabriel spun at the noise, his eyes narrowing when he saw us. "What the hell are you doing here?" he roared, slamming his glass on the counter. "This is my house." "Where's Isabelle?" I demanded, my voice sharper than I'd intended. He sneered, stepping closer. "She doesn't want to see." "You, get out before I call the cops." "We already have," Cecilia said coldly. "They're on their way." From upstairs, I heard a faint cry. "Sophie!" My heart lurched. "Isabelle!" I called, pushing past Gabriel. He lunged to block the doorway, but Cecilia grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Move!" she said, her voice like steel. Gabriel hesitated, his bravado faltering as sirens wailed in the distance. Then from the top of the stairs, Isabelle appeared, Sophie clinging to her side, the twins balanced on her hips. Her face was pale, but resolute. "It's over, Gabriel," she said, her voice steady. "I know about the loans, the forged signatures, everything." Gabriel's face drained of color, then twisted with rage. "You ungrateful!" he started, but Cecilia cut him off, stepping between them. "Not another word," she said. The E. Police arrived moments later, their lights flashing through the windows. Isabelle guided the children to me, Sophie burying her face in my arms. "Nana," she whispered, and I held her tight, tears burning my eyes. Gabriel was led away in handcuffs, still shouting about his rights. As the house fell silent, I knew we'd crossed a line we couldn't uncross. The next morning, Cecilia called with news that changed everything. While sorting through the loan documents, she'd found a letter tucked among Leonard Ramsey's old files. Leonard was my mentor, a grizzled journalist who taught me how to chase a story and never back down. He'd passed away 2 years ago, but his presence lingered in my life like a quiet guardian. The letter revealed that Leonard had left a trust, $12 million, for Sophie, Ethan, and Mia to be released only if they maintained a relationship with me, their grandmother. He'd also included a clause transferring Willow Grove to a historical preservation society if Isabelle couldn't keep it, ensuring Gabriel could never claim it. Leonard had known about Gabriel's schemes. Years ago, he'd quietly investigated him, uncovering the fraud, but holding back to protect Isabelle, whom he loved like a granddaughter. His letter ended with a line that broke my heart open. "Loretta, you were the best of us. Keep your family close. This is my last story, and it's for you." I sat there stunned, tears streaming down my face. Leonard, who'd always seemed so gruff, had seen the truth and acted from a place of deep care, saving us in a way I never could have imagined. The months that followed were hard but hopeful. Isabelle divorced Gabriel, winning full custody of the children. The evidence of his fraud, forged signatures, hidden accounts, was undeniable, and he faced criminal charges that kept him far from our lives. Isabelle threw herself back into painting, landing a project to create a mural for a community center, her brush strokes bold and alive again. We sold Willow Grove, the weight of its memories too heavy to carry. With the proceeds, we bought a cozy riverside cottage and restored an old family farmstead, a place of rolling fields and simple joys. Sophie learned to sketch beside me, her pencils scratching out flowers and stars, while Ethan and Mia chased fireflies in the dusk. One evening, Isabelle told me she'd received a letter from Gabriel, full of apologies and excuses. I wrote. "Back," she said, her voice calm. "I told him I wish him peace, but the kids and I are done. Our future is ours now." I nodded, proud of the strength she'd found. As we sat by the river, the sunset painting the water gold, I thought about what we'd lost and what we'd gained. Selling Willow Grove wasn't about revenge. It was about breaking free, about choosing love over control. There's a lesson in that, one I've carried through these years. Sometimes to hold on to what matters most, you have to let go of what you thought you couldn't lose. A house, a dream, a version of the past. It's not the walls that make a family, but the moments we build together, the laughter and tears that bind us across generations. As Sophie's hand slipped into mine, her small fingers warm against my palm, I knew we'd found our way home. A year after we sold Willow Grove, I stood on the porch of our riverside cottage, watching Sophie chase Ethan and Mia through the grass. Their laughter echoed across the field, mingling with the soft rush of the river. Isabelle was in her makeshift studio, a converted barn on the old family farmstead we'd restored, her paint-splattered hands bringing a canvas to life. The mural she'd created for the community center had won her local acclaim, and she was already planning her next project, her eyes bright with the fire I hadn't seen since her art school days. I smiled, my heart full, but a quiet ache lingered for the home we'd left behind. One afternoon, as I sorted through old boxes in the attic, I found a small, leather-bound journal tucked among William's things. It was Leonard Ramsey's, its pages yellowed but filled with his meticulous handwriting. I'd thought his letter was the last of his gifts, but here was another. The journal chronicled his early years mentoring me and William, his pride in our work, and his quiet worry for Isabelle after she met Gabriel. One entry, dated a month before his death, stopped me cold. "If I can't save Willow Grove for Loretta's family, I hope they find a home in each other. That's the real legacy." I sat there, tears blurring the ink, struck by how deeply Leonard had understood us. His trust fund had given the children a future, but his words reminded me that our strength lay in the bonds we'd rebuilt. I took the journal to Isabelle that evening, and we read it together by the fire, Sophie curled up between us, sketching a dragon with crayons. "He was family, wasn't he?" Isabelle said softly, her fingers tracing Leonard's words. "In his own way, yeah," I replied, my voice catching. "He gave us a chance to start over." That night, Isabelle made a decision. She donated a portion of the trust to restore a historic schoolhouse in town, turning it into an art center for kids like Sophie, a place where creativity could bloom. At the opening, she unveiled a painting, a vibrant scene of Willow Grove's rose gardens, but with our new farmstead in the background, blending past and present. "This is for you, Mom," she said, hugging me as the crowd applauded. I held her tight, knowing we'd carried the best parts of our history forward. Looking back, I've learned that love sometimes means letting go, not just of a house, but of the pain that holds you back. It's about trusting that the people you cherish will find their way, even through the darkest times. As I watch my grandchildren grow, I know our home isn't a place anymore. It's us, together, building something new.